Hi, I'm Matt Carey, documentary editor at Deadline.com. We are in the Deadline studio at the Toronto International Film Festival with the director, Barry Avrich, and with the protagonist of this film. The film is The Road Between Us, The Ultimate Rescue, and that protagonist is retired General Noam Tibon of the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, I should say. Welcome to you both, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Matt.
Well, it's the ultimate rescue, as we say. How did you find out about this story and then connect with the general?
Well, I think ultimately, as a documentary filmmaker, you're obsessed with stories, and it was the human story and being a father that really touched me. What would you do if you were in this kind of situation? And I did everything I could to try and find Noam, found his phone number, called him, and I said, Noam, you don't know me. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I want to make a story about your life. And he said, I won't do the accent, but he said, okay, great. You'll have to talk to my daughter. She's an agent. I went, oh no, this is going to be the worst experience of my life. But, it took a couple of months to sort of find our rhythm, and off we went with the story, which is so beautiful, I think.
It's an extraordinary story, of course. The morning of October 7th, this is the sneak terrorist attack by Hamas on Israel that left so many dead and others who were seized and taken hostage. You were a retired general at that point, but you sprang into action realizing, as I understand it, that no one could go and save your son, your daughter-in-law, and two of your grandchildren.
It was a crazy day. A unique day, and I used all the skills that I have, my instincts, my experience. And I think this is what's so interesting in this movie is the family is basically all we have in our life. People can learn from my experience, from my story about their own life, their own values, and, what would they do to protect their family.
What do you think people could learn? I mean, obviously, there's been some likening of the film to Taken. The Liam Neeson character, of course, is fictional. Maybe we all would like to think that we possess these certain set of skills, and hopefully they'll never be put to the test. But what do you think are lessons perhaps people could learn?
I think the main lesson is that when you are in a chaotic situation and when your family or your people under huge risk, there can be solutions. And the worst situation is to stay at home and watch TV or something like this. And the best way is to try to take action in order to rescue your family. And this is what I did on that day with my wife, Gali. And we are lucky because our family is alive. And, so many people in Israel lost their lives on that day. And I think at the end of the day, what I want from this wonderful movie that Barry made is on the way home, they talked to each other and said, okay, if it will happen to our family, what would we do? And I think this is a huge dilemma. And inside there are, values. And I think it's a great movie.
Barry, and touching on any story that has to do with October 7th, because then of the resulting enormous loss of life in the Israeli invasion and bombardment of Gaza, that this is going to be controversial in some way. Knowing that, how did you approach this film? And we'll get into a little bit of what happened with the festival itself, but was that any surprise to you?
Well, my approach to the film was always Noam's story. When we first met over Zoom, I fell in love with his sense of family and his eyes and his commitment. And we arrived in Israel to film. We're Canadian filmmakers. I'm not, if you look at my work, I'm not a political filmmaker, and I'd be totally the wrong guy to have an opinion here other than what happened in those 14 hours. And I never thought about anything else, even when we were filming and editing the film. It was always going to be this family. This film, as I've said, is wrapped in the flag of a family, not a country. So did I anticipate that certainly that there would be some controversy with the film, debate and dialogue because we filmed in Israel? Yes, but that to me was just noise because again, anybody that would have an issue with the film hasn't seen it. And so, I always hoped, as Noam suggested, that the takeaway was going to be the family and not the politics. If that's naive, so be it. But, I cared about what he accomplished on that day. And until you sit in front of him and his family and survivors, you just can't feel it and know it.
You're a former board member at TIFF and donor to the festival. Did it surprise you, given your close relationship with everyone here, that initially the film was invited, then it was disinvited, then it was reinvited? And of course, in one sense, that is good for the film and that it has brought it to a great level of prominence, but for you as a filmmaker, not an easy situation.
Well, Matt, it's a good question. I mean, let me say, as a former board member for over a decade and a half there, helping to raise money and get the building built. I'm very proud of that. No filmmaker that was on the board, from Canadian Neve Fishman to Deepa Mehta to others, has gotten special treatment, including myself. The film goes in, it goes to a programming committee, and they're very well aware of it. They don't want special treatment. I've never asked for it, and I've never received it. In this particular case, I think it was the adverse of that. So, and a donor, as far as that goes, everybody contributes what they can to the film festival. I'm certainly not a large donor. As far as the what happened, some of it I still don't understand. I knew that the film for the programming team would be something that I hoped that they looked through the lens of balance. What other films are we programming? The merit of the film, the storytelling. And I think, given the program that I saw and that they have for the film festival this year, their 50th, they had a balanced program. So all I asked for was that they look through that lens of treating me as an equal as a filmmaker and the balance of this film. And so the controversy that erupted out of it, of them inviting it and then not inviting it, and then the reaction from media such as yourselves, and you guys have been extraordinarily best in class in saying what's going on here. You guys had the exclusive, and that ignited a response from Hollywood that I'm very proud of. Very proud of, and saying, whatever side that you're on, if you're on a side, and there's no side because it's family, but if you're on a side in terms of this conflict, let's stop for a minute. And why are we protesting a film? If you want to protest what's going on, protest. Protest. I believe in protest. I believe in freedom of speech. But if you're protesting art, what is the point? Where does it stop? Where does it start? Don't buy a ticket. Don't go see this film if you don't like the subject matter. So I came out of the process with TIFF. I'm happy that the film was reinstated, but it was emotionally stressful for me. And again, having made 70 films, I've never felt so hurt in a lot of ways. But it's there, and and I think come Wednesday, and I will let the audience decide how they feel about it.
Tindra Tibon, Barry's described the film as not political. Certainly, you have been very public in your criticism of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in terms of how he has handled the issue of the hostages who remain in Gaza. Here now, what, if anything, would you like to say about that? Do you anticipate questions about that? How do you balance that in terms of wanting people to experience the film, but perhaps also wanting them to know about this larger context in Israel?
I think that the hostages, to release them, and 20 of them are still alive, starving to death in the tunnels of Hamas. I think this is the most important issue today in Israel, because it touched our basic values as Jewish people and as an Israelis, that we don't leave anyone behind us. And that's why since October 8th, that I understood what's going on, I'm fighting for it. And yes, it's very personal because one of the hostages, Omri Miran, from Kibbutz Nachal Oz, from my son kibbutz, which is still in the hand of Hamas, and as we know, he is still alive, he was my son's neighbor. You know, few houses from my son. So it can be my son, it can be my family. And that's why I'm fighting for it as an Israeli patriot, because I think this is the right thing to do to end the war and bring the hostages back home. But at the end of the day, and Barry came from Canada. And that's why his movie is so good, because he's not Israeli. And he came from the other side of the ocean. And I think his attitude basically creates this beautiful movie because he make me open to the whole story and make it very personal. And I think this is what the story is about a grandfather and a grandmother going to do the most important thing in their life, saving their family. That's it.
The film is The Road Between Us, The Ultimate Rescue. We've been joined by the director, Barry Avrich, and by General Noam Tibon, the retired general, IDF. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Deadline.